Hey, welcome to another episode of Supadupa. It's your boy, Papi Vasquez. And guys, this is something new that I'm doing here on this channel. I've never done this before, so we're going to see how it goes. And I really hope it goes great and it's something that we continue doing because I started a book club. I just finished this book. So it's done, but we're starting out a new book, and stay till the end to hear what book we are going to read in this book club. But the book that I just finished reading is this bad boy right here, Anna Karenina by Tolstoy, right? From my library. Support your local library, buy books too, but libraries are pretty dope. And this book is one of the biggest books that I read. This was 870 pages long, and from an author that I never read before, but I kept hearing a lot from Tolstoy. Obviously he has his own philosophy and all that stuff. So I was in the library and I wanted to read books. So I was like, what book should I read? Obviously you have a whole selection and they're free, so you just grab them and read them. And so I went on the internet and I was like, who are the best authors of all time? I got a list and I was like, Tolstoy. I don't know why that name kind of caught my attention. So I then looked, what are the best books from Leo Tolstoy? And Anna Karenina was one, and there was a lot of options of the book. Turns out there's a lot of translations too, which I didn't know at the time, but I ended up getting this one. And initial reaction of the book, wow, this book captivated me and kept my attention like very few other books have that I've read. And the thing about the book is that it's just really about relationships. Like, it's not even like, I wouldn't say there's a lot of action. It's a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of like interrelationships and internal thoughts within the characters. And then there's obviously like a big thing that happens that really because your boy likes to stay spicy. So there's a lot of spicy controversies that happen. But honestly, I went into the book, which is, I think, one of the best signs of a book that really hits people, is the fact that you could get into this world. And that's what this book did to me. I related to the characters on different levels. Like, every character had something that I could relate to. Not just that, but the way that he wrote the book, it was in such a way where it's kind of like he just laid the facts, and any kind of emotion that was put into the facts was just based on how that person saw the situation. It wasn't really like Tolstoy wanted you to think a certain way about the situation. It just kind of is what it is. And God, there was so much in-depthness that I'm going to go into at the end of this video. But I do want to do something that I usually do with my wife. And so if you are interested in Anna Karenina, but probably ain't going to read the book, you're in luck, because I'm going to do a retelling. I'm going to let you guys know what the book is about and basically what happens in the book. So if you are going to read the book, spoiler alert, don't go any further from here. But if you aren't, or if you have read the book and you just kind of want a refresher, put on your seatbelts, because we're about to get the party started. So let's go. The book starts off with Stephen. And now look, there's a lot of Russian names in here, right? So I'm just going to keep things very freaking simple. Stephen. What happened with Stephen? Your boy Stephen's been a bad boy. He just got caught cheating with the babysitter. His wife Dolly ended up getting a letter, and basically it's the babysitter confessing to everything, and your boy Stephen got caught. And he felt bad about getting caught, and he's just like, God, what am I going to do? Now, the book does such a good job of kind of going into the inside of these people's minds. And Stephen, he felt bad because whenever she found out, he just had this stupid smile on his face that wasn't appropriate. Of course it wasn't appropriate. But it came from I don't know, the way I read it is it seems like he was just uncomfortable with the situation. He just didn't know how to react. That's the way he reacted. And he just wanted to tell his wife how sorry he was. But Dolly wasn't having none of it. She didn't want to be with him. She was thinking I'm going to divorce him. I'm going to keep it going. But this is old time Russia. And these are all aristocrats that are in this book. So she's like, I can't leave him. But yeah, I want to leave him. Forget that. I'm going to my mother's house. I'm, blah, blah, blah. So all this is going in her head. She ain't having none of it. Your boy Stephen wakes up in the other room. He's got to go to work. And the book starts off with one of the best lines a book can start off with. I'm going to read it right now. God, and I just knew from this first line that I just really wanted to read this book. It said, happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. And I'm like, God, that's so profound. right? Like, well, not even if not profound, it's just like intriguing to hear that, you know? So it mentions how like just everybody in the house, all the servants knew that something was up. So, you know, Stephen's in the doghouse. Now you have a few protagonists in here, right? But your two biggest ones is Levin and Anna. And Stephen's out and about. And the thing they say about Stephen is that he's a very likable guy, right? He's very social. He just has a way of talking to people. He's a very likable person. All his shortcomings are there, but people just like being around Stephen. He's very accommodating. He makes you feel good being around him, right? So Steven's out and about. He sees his friend Levin. Levin's in town. Hey, Levin, what's going on, my guy? Well, Levin's in town. He's here for business. Very, very, very special business. Your boy's in love, right? And that brings in our other character named Kitty. Now, Kitty is Dolly's sister. So Steven's sister-in-law. And Levin grew up with them, right? Because if I remember correctly, his parents died at a young age. But anyways, Levin grows up. He thinks about Kitty. He's in love with Kitty. He's like, I want to propose to her. And so that's the business he came in for. Kitty, though, she's beautiful. She's young. She just came of age. And she's the most eligible bachelorette. And she's very beautiful. Levin wants to be with her. But Kitty has been talking to another guy. His name's Vronsky. And Vronsky is another character in the book that is basically one of the protagonists. So when Kitty sees Levin, and if I remember, I think he saw her at like a skating rink. And so like when he sees her skating and all this stuff. She's so beautiful. He's like, oh my God, I want to go talk to her. And she sees him there and she kind of knows why he's there. Like, you know, like you go into people's heads in this book and it kind of seems like she knows why he's there. But she's torn because she thinks about Levin and she says, wow, like I could love him. Like, you know, he's great. Like I grew up with him because he's my brother's friend, her brother who died, unfortunately. But he was always around. So she knows Levin. She's comfortable with Levin. And so anyways, he's like, you know, they're skating. Levin's known for like being a freaking great skater and stuff like that. So your boy's like showing off and stuff. And him and Kitty are talking. He's kind of like making it known why he's there. So she's like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Hopefully not, because I have Levin and I have Vronsky. Now, Kitty's mama has been telling her, hey, yo, Vronsky, he's the one. Because Vronsky's a very handsome man, a very handsome, very rich military officer. Right? And so Kitty's mom's like, hey, yo, there's the one over here. This is the one that you should say to. But Kitty's dad, the prince, he's all like, nah, like, you know, Levin's a man's man. You know, this guy over here, he be hoeing around. Like, I know guys like that, man. He ain't serious, you know? And so, you know, mom and dad are kind of like differentiating on who should be accepted, right? Well, they throw a little ball. And that's something that you'll see throughout the whole book, is that these aristocrats just like getting together, partying, drinking, talking shit, right? That's what they like to do. And so they throw this little thing together, and Levin decides to show up early, right? He's going to say, you know what? I'm here for business. I'm going to do what I got to do. He goes up to Kitty, and he's there before everybody else is. Kitty comes down. His heart's bursting. He's like, oh my God. He's like, Kitty, I would like your hand in marriage. And she says, no. And so he's like, oh, heartbroken. And she feels bad for him because she likes him. She likes him. And if it wasn't for Brodsky, she probably would have said yes. But she's like, nah, I can't. He wants to dip. He just got rejected. Nobody wants to stand around while you just got rejected, right? But as he's trying to dip, people start coming in. Now, the thing they say about Levin, though, is that, like, he rubs people the wrong way. Why? Because he just kind of, like, if something doesn't make sense to him, he's just going to be like, shit don't make sense. Like, I don't get it. Like, he doesn't mind arguing. He doesn't sit there and just, like, accept things for what they are, right? And so he's trying to dip. He's trying to get out of there. But then people start talking to him. And that's kind of one of the things that, put off Kitty's mom to liking him. He's just like, you know, he's rough around the edges. Well, then Vronsky shows up. So then, oh my God, Levin has to be there with the girl that just basically shut him down. And then with the guy that she shut him down for. The thing about Levin, though, that I really like, and I think it's meant to be a likable feature, is that the book says most people, like, when they get rejected over something, they just kind of want to dip, and they'll find fault in the person. So if you lose to somebody and they look at him like, oh, well, the guy's ugly anyways, and he's like, you know, you start trying to like talk shit about him. But Levin didn't. He wanted to understand, why was it that this guy like beat me out for the woman I love? you know, which if you think about it is pretty admirable. You know, it's like, what am I missing that this guy has? And he really wanted to understand that. One thing that you'll notice in the book too is that Levin is very insecure. He's insecure. He's like, oh, why me? Like, no, I would never have that. You know, he's kind of like that a little bit. Well, anyways, this happens, right? Well, Stephen, his sister's coming. Anna, who the book is about. Anna Karenina. And he's going to go pick her up at the train station because he wants Anna to come help him out with his wife, because hopefully she can help make amends and she can, you know, make Dolly see how sorry he is and how much he'll never do it again, and just how, like, you know, how sorry he really is. He needs help getting back with his wife, right? So he asks his sister to come in. So he goes to pick her up. Well, it just so happens that Vronsky, his mother's coming. Now, when he leaves, though, this party, he kind of realizes, like, he starts feeling something. He's like, damn, this Kitty girl. He starts thinking about her, like, I could possibly be with her. Now, Kitty has already picked up the vibe because he's kind of been doing things that would make it seem like he's like flirting with her, courting her, right? But he really wasn't doing that. He's just like a kind of a playboy, you know? So when he leaves the party, it's the first time that he actually starts seeing Kitty in that type of way and starts thinking about it, right? I don't know how long after, but Stephen goes picks up his sister. Vronsky goes pick up his mother. Just so happens that Anna and the mother were sitting right next to each other. And the mom just absolutely loved Anna. Now, this is the first time Anna comes into the story, but Tolstoy says that she was like beautiful. She has like this, and it's not just that she's beautiful, but she has this like aura about her. She has this just thing about her that throughout the book is just ever so evident. Everybody that comes across Anna is just looks at her like if she's not even from this world. And it's, yes, she's beautiful, but it's just like the way she is, the way she carries herself, just everything about her is just so awe-striking, right? And so she loves him, and all of a sudden Vronsky sees her and he just like kind of like feels something. He's like, what the hell? Like, ooh, who is this girl? Who she be? Like, oh my goodness, right? And so they're making each other's acquaintance and everything, and next thing you know, they're like, there's commotion. What the hell's going on? What just happened? Well, Stephen and Vronsky go look to see what happened, and comes to find out some dude wasn't paying attention or something happened, but the train killed somebody. And they're like, oh my God, like, it's fucking crazy, right? And so Stephen and Vronsky come back. They're like, yeah, some dude just got freaking ran over by the train. And so then, of course, Hannah and the mom were like, oh my God, that's so crazy. Like, what? You know, they're distraught. And then Anna's like, man, what's going to happen to the family? So then Vronsky's like, hey, I'll be right back. So he takes off. When he comes back, they're like, all right, cool, let's go. So as they're walking out, some guy comes up to him and was like, hey, this money, you just left like a lot of money. Like, who was it for? He's like, oh, give it to the widow. He's like, oh, okay. But Anna kind of picked up that Vronsky was like kind of doing it because she was there. Like, you know, like it's like, it wasn't really a genuine thing. It's more like he was just trying to show off because she was like, oh, what's going to happen to the family? So she was like, that's weird. So then everybody goes their separate ways. Anna goes, sees Dolly, starts talking to her, and in just her way of being and her way of talking, made Dolly feel comfortable, not to where she pitied her or that she like felt bad for her, but that she like kind of just really understood, that didn't really judge her, that wasn't just going to come in and be on Steven's side just because it was Steven's sister. It's like, nah, you know what? He's a hoe, forget him. But you know what? Like, he loves you at the end of the day, you know, and all stuff, and just said the right things and was able to actually help them. And so it's like, all of a sudden, Anna is like this character that you're just like, damn, you know, shit. And so remember, Dolly and Kitty are sisters. So later on, Kitty comes over to see her sister, and Anna's there. And Kitty falls in love with Anna. She's just like, oh my God, who is she? She's like freaking cool and awesome and all this other stuff. And so she really likes her. And she's like, hey, while you're here, we're throwing a ball. Why don't you just come to this ball and we'll all hang out and have a good time? And then Anna's like, yeah, I'll go, because it's just like a thing that these people do, right? They just hang out and shit. And so she does, right? And so from what I took from the book, at this ball, there's like dances, right, that they do. And Kitty being like, she was very beautiful as well. And all these guys wanted to dance with her. And so there was this one guy that did dance with her, but I feel like he was the one throwing the party, something like that, right? So he got to dance with her. But there was this very special dance at the end. Vronsky like was supposed to be the one to dance with her, right? And so she kept telling people no, 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 because Vronsky was supposed to ask her. But where was Vronsky's antennas? Oh boy was just over there with Anna the whole time. And just like, just like mesmerized by her, just talking to her. He just wanted to be close to Anna. And next thing you know, the last dance comes over and Vronsky's still over there with Anna. And so Kitty just has nobody to dance with. So she's like distraught. Like, it turns out this thing's like a big deal in society. And society has a lot to do with this book, right? And so she's distraught, all this stuff. Anna sees it because Anna's like, whoa, I thought this guy was with her. And what the fuck, he's over here. So she feels bad. And so she's like, you know what? I'm getting out of here. Like, I'm not trying to cause any trouble. I'm a married woman. I have my son. She's distraught because she's never been away from her son. She loves her son. And she's like, whoa, like, this is awkward. This is not cool. Like, I didn't mean to do this. This guy's just over here all up on me, trying to talk to me and shit. And I'm not trying to give him that time of day. And now I've hurt Kitty and like, I wasn't even trying to do it, right? So she's like, I'm about to dip. And so the next day she says bye to everybody. She's like, I want to go home. I don't want to be here. She gets on the train, she goes. And on the train, she's just kind of thinking about this Vronsky dude. Like, oh, what's going on? Like, this guy's just like, it's like, and it wasn't even like she was like, I think it was like she was more flattered of the whole thing. Like, because, yeah, you could feel bad if you did the same thing too. But like, if somebody was just all up into you like that, they'd be like, there's a little bit of flattery. And so she's just kind of like feeling guilty too. Like, this guy was just very inappropriate and like, God, like, why this? And then she had to think, it's like, well, I didn't even do anything. Like, so like, I shouldn't feel guilty about it because I didn't do anything. I've been, doing the right thing. So like in this train, like, because the train was new to Russia, like, so like it would go from stop to stop and then it would stop for a little bit. So it stopped. So she decided to go outside and get some fresh air because she was feeling like hot and shit. So when she goes outside, she's getting some fresh air. She's like, oh my God, like, it's crazy, right? As she's like out there getting fresh air or trying to come back in, guess who's on the fucking train? Vronsky. And Vronsky's like, hey, I love you. Wherever you're gonna be at, I'm gonna be at. And she's like, what? Hey, don't say that. That's freaking crazy. Don't say that. He's like, nah, girl, you're the one. And I love you, and she's like, nah, like, that's inappropriate. Please don't ever say that again. He's like, I ain't gonna say it again, but And so she's like, what? So she goes back into the train and she's like sitting there. And so now she's definitely like, what is up with this dude, right? Like, God dang, like, coming on strong. Like, so they get to Petersburg, right? So there's 3 settings where this go. Everything that I've been telling you about prior to this was in Moscow. The other setting is Petersburg, where Anna's from. So Stephen is from Moscow, Anna's from Petersburg, and then the third setting is the country. But we ain't there yet. Anna goes back. And when she goes back, she sees her husband that picks her up. Her husband's like, hey, babe, I missed you. And she's like, how's Seryosa? Seryosa. I don't know how to say it, right? Seryosa. I don't know. But anyways, her son. And he's like, he's good. He didn't even miss you. I'm over here telling you, and it's like, you're just kind of like, whatever. The book says something that it's like kind of foretelling or kind of like the first step of something that's going to get bigger. And what it says is that she noticed his ears stuck out in a certain way. And she had never noticed that before, but for whatever reason, this time it's like she couldn't even like take her eyes off of it. Well, anyways, Vronsky's coming, and so he comes over and he says, hey, good to see you, and the husband's there, and Anna's like, oh, this is awkward. And saying, hey, honey, this is Vronsky. I met him in Moscow. Do you guys know each other? Because Vronsky spent some time in Petersburg. And he's like, no, I don't think we've ever met the acquaintance, stuff. But like the whole time, it kind of seemed like Vronsky was just like, not listening to you, husband. I'm, just looking at Anna the whole time. Very inappropriate. So that happened. In the meantime, Levin skips town, right? He just got rejected. He's like, oh man, I want to go back to the country. And that's the thing about Levin. He's a country boy. All these families are rich. His family had a house out in the country, and now he's taking care of the land. He's working it. And that's something that you see in that. He's trying to be the best manager of this land that he can be. Now, it seems to me, and I kind of read a little bit, at the time there were serfs, right? And it just sounds to me like there were slaves, right? That these aristocratic people used to just whip into and just like you would do a slave, and they were able to get a lot out of there. Well, now it's illegal to have these slaves. They're now called they're not called serfs. They're, you know, now just peasants. The thing about these peasants is that he can't really get the most he can out of this land, profit for him. And so a lot of the book is him just contemplating like these things, these ideas, you know. And that's one thing that I really love about this book, is the way that all these characters come from one man. And a lot of these characters disagree, have different points of views, and they argue them very well. And you just kind of forget, like you start seeing them as all these different characters. And I just sat there and thought, like, all these people come from the mind of one man, which was freaking dope. So Levin is, you know, that's part of a lot of his part of the book is the fact that, you know, he's just sitting there thinking, contemplating these things, right? Of how life could be better and could get the most out of this land. Back to Anna and Vronsky. So Anna's back in town, right? And the book said that before she used to like to hang out with all the intellectual types, the people that her husband used to hang out with, right? But all of a sudden, you know, she started hanging out with, like, you know, the party goers, the socialites, you know, things like that. Well, Vronsky had a cousin named Betsy, and she noticed that Vronsky was looking at Anna, and she's like, you know what? I never liked her husband anyway. You know what? Why don't y'all come to my house? Why don't y'all meet? She always made it very easy for them to be around each other. So they're at another little get together. And so Anna's sitting there and she's like all stuff. And next thing you know, Vronsky just like slides up next to her and was like, hey girl, what's up? You know, like, let's talk a little bit. And she's like, now she's like kind of like letting him talk a little bit, letting him get in her ear and all this stuff, right? And so he's over here spitting games like, damn girl, you smell good, you know, what's up, what you did today, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's all like just spitting game at her, and she's like, nothing, stop, right? And he's all like, no, man, whatever, you know. Well, then Alexei, her husband, shows up. The thing about the book, Alexei is both Alexei Vronsky's name and Alexei Alexandrovich's name, right? I think that's his last name. No, or Alexei Karenin, because Karenina is her husband. They have a whole bunch of different names. That's another thing I've read. I've read Dostoevsky and I've read Tolstoy, and like every character's got like 3 names, right? So that's a part that I had to get used to the book. But Alexei, when I say Alexei, I'm talking about husband. When I say Vronsky, I'm talking about Vronsky, right? So Alexei shows up, right? And he's just like, you know, in this time with these aristocrats, it's not like out of the norm for men and women to talk, you know, for women to have guy friends, you know, and all this stuff. And so Alexei shows up and he's just like, oh, cool. How's everybody doing? Blah, 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 blah. Great, great. Oh, cool. Where's Anna? She's over there with him. So what he noticed, though, it wasn't so much that he was like jealous that she was over like to the side talking to Vronsky. Like, he's like, you know what? She can have her friends. Like, that's not a thing. But what he noticed was how other people were looking at them. And that's what he's like, okay, that could be a little inappropriate. I'm not here to blame my wife saying that she's doing something that she shouldn't be doing. But if we're looking crazy out here in these streets, and, you know, like, I need to be a good husband to tell her, right? So, you know, the thing about Alexei that they say, the thing about her husband is that he was very much, like, very particular. He had almost the same schedule every day, like in the sense of when he woke up, when he went to bed. You know, he was very driven by his job. And it seems like he wasn't an emotional creature. It seemed like he was just very like strict, unemotional, just like proper, you know, maybe a stiff, maybe a little bit of a square. It was the way he was, you know. So he's like, I gotta go home, go to bed. Everything's good, cool. But when he left, though, he just kept thinking about like how people were looking at Anna and Vronsky. And he's all like, Now, this is something really cool, is that he said, you know what, I'll never go as low as to have a negative feeling like jealousy. He saw jealousy as like a low feeling that he wouldn't allow himself to have, and that he wouldn't insult his wife by being jealous, because it's like, to be jealous is saying that there's a chance that your wife might fuck around, which would be insulting to Anna. So he's like, I would never do that. But then how do I talk to her about somebody else if like not about the jealousy part, right? Like how do you keep jealousy out of saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't talk to this dude or whatever. So that whole dialogue was just interesting to me. Well, anyways, Anna gets home and he's like, hey girl, I need to talk to you real quick. And she's like, what? What's up? And he's all like, look, you should have your own life. You should have your own friends. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that maybe what was going on over there could have been slightly inappropriate. And you don't want our reputations to be tarnished over just maybe something that isn't that big of a deal. And she was like, I don't I don't know what you're talking about. And he's all like, what do you mean? You know, I'm just telling you this. And she just kind of was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, that's peculiar. You know, that's peculiar. He's like, that's crazy. Like, like, why are you not getting it? So it was like, anyways, they agreed to disagree. But from this moment, he knew that she was keeping something from him. A lot of it was because before she left, she was very attentive to her husband. And Alexei not being asleep at the time she got home, the old Anna would have been like, there's something up with you. What's going on? She would have been really attentive to him as to why he wasn't asleep yet. And so he knew that the fact that she didn't even bring that up, that she was acting very weird, that something was crazy, right? Or that something was going on. Well, sure enough, she would started fucking around with Vronsky. The fuck? She started having an affair, and like a full-fledged affair. She was like, loved him. And remember how I told you to think about the ears? Well, like she started like picking him apart, picking her husband apart, like finding a fault in everything she does, calling him a robot, calling him unemotional, calling him all this stuff, just really trying to find, like, villainize her husband in order to, I guess, feel good about this relationship that she was having. You know, she ends up having an affair with Vronsky, and her husband just kind of felt like something was up. He kept himself busy, but things were never the same from that point. All right, so in the meantime, Levin is back there, and so he's kind of like, you know, he's a rich boy. Like, he is a country boy. I mean, he does manage his land or everything, but he's a rich boy, right? So in his thought process, as he's trying to figure out, like, he's trying to keep himself busy from what just happened with Kitty, right? He doesn't want to think about it, but also he has to think about, like, I'm getting older, I want to get married, but maybe love isn't for me. So he's just trying to keep his mind off of that. He's writing a book, and he starts working in the fields, right? And so he starts working with the peasants, which usually the masters don't, or the landowners don't do, but he did, and he started finding love in it, and he's really started liking it. That whole thing is going on. And I know I don't spend a lot of time on Levin, but it's because a lot of the stuff in the book has to do with the way that he's thinking about things, his mind and everything like that. But a good chunk of the book has a lot to do with what Levin's going on, what's going on with Levin. But a lot of his stuff is internal. A lot of stuff is like he's going through like a metamorphosis of like just his ideas and talking to people. And his brothers come over, they visit him. He has one brother who's dying that comes visit him, and how he really tries to just be better, you know? And at the same time, Kitty is left heartbroken to the point where she thinks she's ill. And her mother is like, oh no, I don't know what's going on with her, blah, blah, blah. But her dad, because Kitty was her dad's favorite, and he knew. And he was mad at the princess, saying, you know what? She is hurt because of Vronsky, and she's just heartbroken. But the mom doesn't want to believe that because she was the one pushing Vronsky on her daughter. So it's like, you know, she didn't want to feel that fault. So they're like, oh, she's just sick. We got to take her. We got to go abroad, and we got to, you know, take her to there was like I don't remember now, but I don't know if it was like a lake or where there's waters or springs or something that was supposed to help cure people. Well, while she's out and about, you know, Kitty was very naive. She was very much about society. She was about, like, you know, she was just a young child still at this book, even though she had just come of age. And so she sits there, and she meets another young lady, and this young lady captivated her because she was helping people. She was very selfless in helping people. Well, she was raised by this other lady that was there, and the older lady couldn't walk. She was in a wheelchair. And so, you know, this girl just always took care of her, was taking care of ill people and all this stuff. And at the time, these sick people, Kitty saw them as repulsive. Like, she was just like, ooh. With her friendship with this girl, she realized, wow, helping people. And she almost had like a spiritual awakening. She became more religious. You know, she was able to get out of her funk and just kind of not just see her problems, but like maybe just see that her problems in the grand scheme of things probably didn't matter. So Kitty went through like a maturing, right? In the meantime, Levin, he's going through his own thing, you know, of just kind of like understanding his job and his presence as an aristocrat, as a landowner, his duty to his country, his duty to his people, like just kind of like just, and it's not even that he finds the answers, it's just that he's asking the questions. Well, you cut back to freaking Anna and Vronsky, and they've been, now Anna is at, it's like almost like a summer villa, right? That's away from Petersburg, right? Where all the socialites like would go out and hang out at a certain time of the year, and she's there. Of course, Vronsky's bitch ass is there. And, you know, they're having their affair. And around this time in this area, there's going to be horse races. And one thing about Vronsky is that he loves horses. And so he's over there and he's going to partake in this race. So he's getting himself ready and all the socialites are going and they're still like, you know, Anna and him like are finding ways to see each other. Turns out that these races are kind of a big deal. So Anna is in the where all the people are at, where all the aristocrats are watching the boxes, right? And Vronsky's getting on, you know, ready to get on the horse. Alexei shows up, her husband. And at this point, like, he knows that her and Vronsky are friends. Doesn't know that they're smashing friends with benefits, but they're friends. Before the race, Anna had to tell Vronsky something. What does he tell her? That she's pregnant. What? Yeah, this is like a soap opera. So she's pregnant with Vronsky's kid, and Vronsky's like, yo, let's go, let's run away. And she's like, you're crazy. Just tell him you don't love him. You come with me and we'll go be family. And she's like, no, what? I have a son and this guy's heartless. He's gonna take my kid away from me and all stuff. Like, again, just being like ugly towards her husband, even though like she's the one that's doing all the bad shit, right? And so she's like, no, you don't understand him. He's heartless, blah, 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 blah. So anyways, that's what it ends. So now your boy's getting on the horse. Vronsky's getting on the horse, right? They're about to race, right? Alexei shows up and he like just keeps looking at his wife and just noticing that she's just paying a little extra attention to a certain horseman. Now they start talking about who they're betting. Of course, she's going to go with somebody else, right? But she's really going for Vronsky. They get on the horse and Vronsky's got this rival. And so that part of the book's about him and his rival. But anyways, they're going, they're trotting, they're racing, they're doing all this stuff. Vronsky takes the lead, right? And he's like yards away from finishing. And then all of a sudden tumbles over the freaking horse, breaks its back, right? And next thing you know, it's, you know, they're on the floor. He loses the race. You know, nobody in the boxes could see what happened to the horse and the rider. They just see that something happened and they're like going, so they're like, oh my God, it was such a nasty spill. Like, people have died doing these races. So the fact that that Vronsky could have died is a possibility. So nobody knows what's going on. They just see that the horse can't get up, has a broken back. Boom, they had to kill the horse. And then nobody knows what's going on with the rider. Well, they start asking, what happened with Vronsky? What happened with Vronsky? You know, Vronsky's fine, by the way. He's just mad that he lost. Well, Anna doesn't know this, right? And Alexei sees it again. And he's like, dude, this is beyond inappropriate. Like, come on, like what the hell? He tells her, come on, let's go home. And she's like, no, I'm going with, and he's like, nah, you're coming home with me. So he takes her home. They're in the cart. And Alexei tells Anna, hey, I told you once. I gotta tell you again. This is starting to get really uncomfortable and it's very inappropriate. The fact that like you and Vronsky have this relationship and all stuff. And now these people have like morals, right? And a code that they live their life by. Anna, for the most part, was always truthful with her emotions and everything until she started having this affair. So the fact that she was lying to her husband had been eating her up. And she broke. She's like, shut up, bitch. I don't love you. I love him. And we've been having an affair. And we, you know, love each other. And I never loved you. And you're crazy and all this stuff. And she just starts breaking down. Something the book says about her husband, Alexei, is that he always felt weird when other people started to cry. Like, he didn't like it. He was like, oh, ooh, you know. She starts crying. He like started feeling bad. Like, oh, like, dang, he started feeling uncomfortable. Yeah, he heard what just happened and his heart's broken and everything. But the fact that she just told him that, she's upset. He just couldn't handle it. So he just sat there. They finally get there. She's crying. And what does Alexei do? He helps her out of the carriage. He's like, well, I'll let you know about what you just told me. Like, I got to think about it, and I'll let you know what I'm going to do about it. So she goes in the house, and so he like, it's like, what the fuck, right? And so this is something that you start seeing in the book, is that Anna, like, now it's all out. She feels bad about what she did and all this stuff. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been cheating on my husband. And like, what's he going to do? And like, oh my God, like, because Alexei hasn't done anything to her. He just is the way he is, but he's been a faithful, truthful husband. So she starts feeling a certain type of way. And so, of course, Alexei's off and he's like, what should I, like, what? And they're saying that like he did feel some relief though, because like throughout the whole time that he was in the dark about the whole thing, it was eating at him. But now just hearing that, you know, all the things that he had been through were kind of basically true, like he did feel a little bit better that he knew the truth. But now he's like, what the fuck? Like, what am I gonna do? You know? So he's like, man, should I have a duel with this guy and we shoot it out? But he's like, nah, like, why am I gonna risk losing my life? And the book said he was kind of a little bit of a coward, you know? Like, but who wouldn't be? Like, you know, like shit, I don't know about like having a shootout with somebody. Maybe I'm a coward too, I guess. I don't know. But he's all like, yeah, that's kind of stupid. And why would I put my life on the line when I didn't do anything? Like they're the messed up ones. And so he was just thinking about his reputation because, you know, he cared about his time in office. He wanted to get to a higher position. And it being out, getting a divorce, knowing that some guy like was smashing your girl, like wasn't a good look for him, you know? Sure enough, you know, he just came down to the conclusion that he's going to tell Anna, you know what? I'm going to let it go. We're going to continue life as close to what it was before. Like, obviously, life has changed. We're going to stay married and we're going to put this behind us and, you know, just stop fucking around with Vronsky. And you got to come home to Petersburg. Like, you can't be in these villas. Like, nah, you could come home. So he, like, wrote it out, sent it to her. Anna gets the letter and she's like, how dare he? Oh my God, the way he wrote this down, what the, like, just a switch, like a 180. She's like, forget him, like all stuff, like, but, you know, she had to listen, so she goes back. Alexei told her, is like, hey, yo, don't be fucking around, but if you do, don't do it at the house, you know, like, which is weird, you know, because it's kind of like he seemed like he just accepted that she was going to be unfaithful to him. And so, sure enough, you know, she continues to have the affair. At this time, around this time, Dolly, Steven's wife, goes into the country, and so, you know, Levin's in the country. Steven's like, hey, can you go check up on her for me? You know, because you're basically out there. He does, you know. So Dolly loves Levin. She thinks he should be with Kitty, and so, you know, he's helping around the house. You know, he's doing all this stuff, and then Dolly's like, hey, can I talk to you about something? He's like, yeah, sure. He's like, so I think that I kind of picked up, like, did you propose to my sister? And he's like, oh, she told you. He's like, no, she didn't tell me, you just told me. I just had an assumption because I knew you liked her or whatever. He's like, oh, I just don't want to talk about it, it's so embarrassing. She's like, look, I know, I'm sorry, you know, to embarrass you, but look, you should try again. You should try, you know, you should try to do that, you know. And he's all like, no, I would never, like, no, I don't even want to talk to her, I don't want to see her. He's like, when, why? She already said no to me, and what, she would just say yes because Vronsky was an asshole, you know, like, nah, like, that's fucked up, you know, like, no. Anyways, he gets upset, he goes. Well, Kitty was on her way over, and so he's, you know, again, he spent some time with the peasants, he's fixing some affairs for his sister and all this stuff, and he's out there, and he's just, like, thinking about life and all that stuff, and, you know, he's sitting there, and he sees Kitty, who doesn't see him, in a carriage on her way to Dolly's, and he sees her, and the moment he saw her, he realized, I still love that girl. And that's that. So then, you know, going back to freaking Vronsky and Anna's messy asses, they don't stop the affair. They continue going, but Vronsky doesn't ever go to the house. He stays away from the house. He spends a week chaperoning a foreign prince, showing him the Russian ways, customs, things to do, you know, a bachelor. And so he was gone for a week without being able to see Anna. When he cut, like, you know, when he's available, Anna's like, I must see you, and you need, like, just come to the house. It's like, look, Alexei's gonna be gone from 6 to 10. He's over there doing something, so just come see me for those hours, and you know, like, because I need to see you. And so, sure enough, he goes, and he's like, "Oh, go to the house. I shouldn't be going to the house." But he says, "Fuck it," and he goes to the house, right? And it says that he saw the carriage, and it's like, oh, Anna must be there waiting for him to see him. So he goes in, opens the door to the hallway, he looks up, and guess who he's running into? He's running into Alexei. Vronsky and Alexei see each other at the doorway of Alexei's house when he told his wife, don't be hoeing around, and if you are hoeing around, don't do it in my house. And sure enough, she brought her lover to his house. He looks at Vronsky and is like, and he leaves, which is crazy. So Vronsky sees Anna, and so Anna's like, he's like, hey, you know who I just saw? I just saw Alexei. And she's like, what? She's like, yeah, what are we gonna do? She's like, let's not talk about that right now. I miss you. I want to be you. I want to be with you. How was it with the prince? You were probably out there looking at some girls and shit over there. I know what you guys be doing, blah, blah, blah. She got real jealous. And he's like, nah, girl, I can't even, I don't even like that stuff no more. You know, I just want to be with you. I like you. She was like, whatever. She's kind of started showing her jealousy, right? But either way, they started, you know, they got back. Everything was real romantic, right? In the meantime, Alexei was thinking, like, what the hell is going on here? Like, what? Like, you just sit here and you just like disrespect me and all this stuff like that. What am I supposed to do? Like, you're hoeing around on me, you're bringing him to my house. Like, this guy's like, what am I supposed to do at this point? So he decides he's gonna get a divorce. He goes off to Moscow, right? He's keeping himself busy. And so sure enough, he's like, I'm gonna get a divorce. While he's in Moscow, he sees Steven. Steven's like, what's up, bro-in-law? And he's like, God, I don't want to see you, dude. Like, what the hell? Sure enough, they invite him to a dinner. He's like, I don't want to go. Look, I'm gonna let you know, we're not even gonna be brother-in-laws for too long. I'm divorcing your sister. She's a hoe, and I'm not trying to like be around her anymore. Steven's like, no way. No, I don't believe you. This is crazy. Obviously, like, look, just come to the thing. We'll talk it out. Speak to Dolly. Dolly loves Anna, and she's gonna talk to you, and you're gonna be able to put this aside. They don't know that Anna's confessed to him. Like, it's not like that. They just think that he's like in his head about it, and that like he's just like trying to. No, she's confessed. They don't know, right? Well, at this party, Levin's there. Levin, Steven, and Dolly, and Kitty's there. Again, and that's where the book is amazing. They're having great dialogue. They're talking, right? To make things short, Dolly talks to Alexei. Alexei's like, nah, y'all don't fucking know what's going on, and you guys are tripping. No, I'm not gonna forgive her and all this stuff. She's over here like fucking around. He gets mad. He leaves, right? But Levin and Kitty over here on the side, just kind of giving each other them, twinkle eyes, just like, hey, what's up, girl? Blah 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 blah. He proposes again. She says yes. Levin and Kitty are getting together. They're gonna get married. It's so beautiful. That's a beautiful part of the book. You get the ugly part when it comes to Anna and Vronsky, and you get the beautiful part when it comes to Kitty and Levin, and they just start getting ready to get married. They talks about the wedding. Everything's good. Everything's great, right? After he leaves the party, Alexei does. He gets a letter, and it's Anna. She's in labor, and she says, I'm dying. I would like for you to come over because I need to ask your forgiveness. I'm sorry. I've been a bad girl and I just need to see you. And he's like, what? Man, she's playing with me now, blah, blah, blah. He's like, and if she really is dying, then I'll go and I'll talk to her or whatever and see if she's really dying. If she is dying, then we'll see what happens. She's not dying. I'm leaving, because he was trying to get some stuff done at his job. So he was trying to stay busy and he wanted to go do that stuff, right? Well, he goes back, he shows up, he goes in there, and like everything's hectic, right? Because Anna went into labor, right? She's giving birth to Vronsky's kid, and he shows up. He's like, what? Vronsky's in the house. He's like, dude, you're still fucking here? What the hell's going on? But he's like distraught. Vronsky's just like laying over crying. And so he goes into the room, and it's like, your husband's here. And Anna's like, he overhears Anna saying, no, you guys are just playing, like, put the kid over there, blah, 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 Sure enough, he's there, he sees her. And Anna sees him, he's like, Alexei, I'm so sorry. The Anna that there's been two Annas, and one Anna, like this other Anna, fell in love with him, but that's not me. The person that sees you right now is the real Anna, and I just want to tell you I'm so sorry. You're a great man. Everything you've done has just been amazing, and the way you forgave me, and everything you've done is just been great. And I'm wrong. Would you please forgive me? And she's crying and everything. And finally, this tough exterior that is Alexei breaks down, and he sobs like a child, like he never has before. He just breaks down. And he forgives his wife. The thing that made him uncomfortable every time he saw somebody else crying, I believe, was just like his immense empathy that he has for people. And so he forgave him. He's sitting there crying, and he says, I forgive you. And she's like, would you please forgive Vronsky as well? And so she brings Vronsky into the room, and Vronsky just can't look at her husband. He's just crying or whatever, right? And she's like, look at me, and he won't. So finally, Alexei rips his hands down and is like, look, and he like is all pitiful and shit. And Alexei forgives him too. That's it. They're waiting for Anna to die. And so then Alexei tells Vronsky, hey, like, I'll let you know if she asks for you, but, I'll let you know if anything happens. You can't stay here, dude. And so when Alexei leaves, he has a new perspective of what had happened. Where before, Alexei was just like the husband who wasn't shit. All of a sudden, he's raised to this high status of this forgiving person, like this big deal, and he starts feeling like that he's the fucked up person who basically is a homewrecker. It's like the first time he really sees it like that. Not just that, this woman that he loves is about to die. So he goes and he's like thinking about all this stuff, and he can't help thinking how now Alexei is better than him and how he's going to lose the love of his life. So he grabs a gun and he shoots himself in the chest to kill himself. But he misses. And so he lives, and he's looked after by his sister-in-law. Well, in the meantime, Anna is getting better. She's not dying, but they're both out of it. And then there's this baby just there. And so Alexei looks at the baby and he can't help falling in love with the baby. So he starts taking care of the baby, making sure that the baby's fine. And if it wasn't for him, the baby would have died. The baby's fine. Anna's recovering. Vronsky's better. And so Anna is just like, she recovers. And so now she's like kind of at the mercy of her husband. She says like whatever he wants, but she just can't stand him. It's like, again, she goes back into hating him and seeing him as like this self-serving type of person. Betsy's fucking stupid ass keeps coming over and like talking to about Vronsky and like just, you know, making it like hard for Anna to do the right thing. And so Vronsky, he's like, well, this is over, right? The husband's just basically taken over. He got promoted to some shit that he's gonna go do. And he's saying bye to everybody. And they're like, are you gonna say bye to Anna? And he's like, nah, because she's somebody's wife. Like, he's really trying to break things off. Well, Steven comes to see his sister because obviously she's, you know, been sick, and sees Betsy on her way out from seeing Anna and it's like, hey, how's it going? And she's like, freaking horrible. Fucking Alexei just holds her hostage. She's so unhappy. She doesn't want to be with him. Like, they just can't live together. And she's like, huh. Steven's like, okay, all right, well, let me go see her. So he goes in there and sees her, and for sure, Anna's like, yeah, I just can't be around him. Just seeing him reminds me of how horrible I am, and I just can't stand it and all this stuff. So Alexei's like, well, damn, okay. So not Alexei, Steven goes up to Alexei and is like, hey, man, you know, I told you about the divorce and how you shouldn't do it. I think it's a good idea, man. If y'all can't be around each other, what kind of marriage is that, you know? And so Alexei's like, damn, that's crazy. Okay, well, I guess I'll give her the divorce. Where he gets back to Vronsky that they're in a divorce, he goes straight to Anna. And Anna's like, I want to be with you. Like, Vronsky's, I want to be with you. And so they fucking take the baby and they take off to Italy, where shit starts going downhill, y'all. While they're in Italy, they finally get to live out this life, right, that they've been seeking. And they only have each other. But then Vronsky starts getting restless. He starts picking up things here and there to do. But, you know, he's like, you know, he can't just be around her all the time. Like, they're just people, you know? And so they're there and things happen in Italy. Then they go back to Petersburg, right? Because Vronsky has to take care of some business. While she's there, she goes and sees her son, which he's a victim of all this because he misses his mom. He wants to be with his mom, but she can't take him. And so she basically just goes there, breaks his heart, sees him, and then leaves. At this time, like, this is society, like back in the day, super conservative. She's like feeling like she thinks she's just going to be able to continue being society. She goes to an opera, and Vronsky's very real about their position and is like, I don't know if you should go do that. Like, and she's like, why? As in, like, trying to get him to be like, why don't you think I should go? And he's like, in his mind, he's like, because you know what's going on? Like, you're a married woman, you're being with me, like, nobody's going to respect us, you know? But she didn't give a fuck. She went. She's at the thing. Sure enough, like, somebody, like, some woman started saying, what is this woman doing here? Like, just basically, like, calling her out her name and doing all this stuff and making it a big deal. It was just, like, a big deal. And that's when Anna realized, damn, I can't be out. So they go into the country, right? And everything in the country is amazing. It's glamorous and all this stuff. I mean, Vronsky's building a hospital. Anna's like reading books because she has all this time, and they only get the people that come out there that want to see them. So she doesn't really get to be insulted because everybody that comes out already knows the deal and is never going to like disrespect them. Sure enough, you know, like, you know, Dolly comes over and kind of sees everything, but Dolly feels a little uneasy about everything. So she leaves, and just time passes, right? Everybody goes to Moscow because guess what? Kitty's pregnant, and Kitty's going to have the baby in Moscow. They go to Moscow, and sure enough, Anna goes over there with Vronsky. And at this point, like, they've been going back and forth. Anna and Vronsky have kind of been arguing because Vronsky goes do stuff. When he comes back, Anna has a fit, jealous. He probably went over there with them hood rats, with them hoes. And he's like, nah, girl, you're the only hoe I love. And she's like, you know, like, nah, fuck that. And And so they just keep going back and forth to where they start kind of being adverse. Like she feels like kind of upset because she's given everything for Vronsky and she expects Vronsky to stand right there, but Vronsky's like, hey yo, I gotta go do stuff, I can't just be at the house, you know. And no, I love you, like I know you've given up a lot to be with me, but I love you, girl. And it's like they just keep going back and forth where she gets jealous, he makes her feel good, and it's like they just keep going back and forth. And in Moscow it all just hits a tipping point where, you know, he's out and about, you know, almost as like kind of like trying to be independent from her grasp because he feels like she's real manipulative, trying to keep him there. And so he's trying to be out, and he comes back, and of course she gets into her jealous, and he's always telling her, hey, like, girl, I love you. And then she calms down, but no matter how much he does that, she always like keeps going back. And so the arguments just get worse and worse and worse. Not to top it off, but Anna freaking becomes a morphine addict, right? So she starts going through all that stuff. She uses morphine to sleep and all that stuff. So they keep going back and forth. And then Anna's like, you know, we were so happy in the country. Let's just go back to the country. Vronsky is like, you're right. We were happy. Let's go back. You know what? I just got some last bit of business that I need to finish up, and I'll go. Now, Vronsky never lied to Anna. Like, and so his mom didn't like Anna because she felt like he gave his career up for her. The mom said, hey, you should marry this princess here because she's like a great gal. And so he's like, you know, I'm with Anna. So he tells Anna what the mom said. The mom, Anna's like, fuck your mom, basically. And Vronsky's like, yo, don't disrespect my mom. He's like, nah, you know what? She's over here trifling and shit. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, you know, she's talking all this shit and I don't like it. He's like, don't disrespect my mom, Anna. And so they get into the fight. He's like, fine, let's just go, right? Because she wants to leave on Monday. He's like, ooh, I got to finish something. Let's not leave Monday. Let's leave Tuesday. She's like, we either leave Monday or we never leave at all. And he's like, dude, why you do this? Why are you doing that? You know, like, why are you making it more complicated than what it should be? Like, it shouldn't be like that. And she's like, nah, forget that. You know, like, it's either this or nothing. Well, sure enough, you know, he's like, fine, I'll do it. Like, you know, let me just finish this thing up and all this stuff. And she just keeps going back from jealous to not jealous to jealous to jealous. And so he even that, she's like, oh, so we could have gone Monday this whole time. You were just like making it hard and all this stuff. He's like, what is going on? So he's like, look, I'm going to go finish my business with my mom. We'll leave on Monday. And she's like, you're leaving on Monday. I'm staying. He's like, what are you talking about? She's like, nah, like you're staying. I'm going. He's like, fine, whatever. And he left. But at the door, he wanted to go back and tell her, girl, stop playing. Because he loved her. He really did love her. But in his mind, he said, you know, I do that all the time. I always go back and I try to make her feel better. But look, like this always keeps happening. Let me try something different. So he doesn't go back. He just leaves. Anna starts playing them games. She sends him a letter saying, oh, come back. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't get the message. So she just starts unraveling, right? She starts getting jealous. She starts like freaking going crazy. She knows that he's going to be on the train. So she goes over there and she's like trying to get him. And she's like, you know what? I'm just going to leave. She actually, first she goes sees Dolly and Kitty. And then the whole time she's like in her head about shit. She's like, oh, they don't even want to see me. They think about my position. She's really getting in her head. She's going crazy. So sure enough, she goes in the train. She's just thinking, she's unraveling. She's saying that she's going to break up with Vronsky, that she's just leaving and never coming back. And she's thinking about everything she's given up. And she's seeing the train pass by. And she fucking throws herself under a train. And she dies. And that is the end of Alexei Vronsky and Anna's relationship. Now, the ending of the book, though, is a little bit better. You know, you have Levin and his family. And Levin, at this point, is really thinking about the meaning of life. How when Kitty was in labor, he went back to God, even though he's not a believer. And the ending of the book is just really so great because it tells you like what happened with Vronsky through somebody else's point of view. And Vronsky was heartbroken when he saw Anna, and he just basically didn't give a fuck about life. And at the time there was the war, and so he just went back to war. And he's like, you know what? I'd rather die doing something like for people than just like because I don't care about life. You know, so he went to the war wanting to die. And Kitty and Levin end up having a great relationship. You know, his spiritual awakening, his revelations and everything that happened at the end of the book for Levin is absolutely great. And it actually ends on Levin. It's like a good part of the book ends with Levin. And that is basically what happened in this fucking crazy ass book. It's fucking great. I did not do it justice. Please read the book. But there's a few things before I finish this video that I really want to like just kind of take the time that really left an impression on me. And the one thing is how Anna started hating her husband and finding fault in him in order to justify her cheating. Like that to me like was just really interesting how that happened. And so not just that, but like it also like in parts of the book when bad things were happening to Alexei, it just seems like people reveled in it. And not just that, when they started seeing Anna and Vronsky started like, you know, they kind of like were like encouraging it, but it wasn't so straightforward. It just kind of seemed like in their minds they were wanting to do that. Alexei's views on jealousy was actually something that kind of stuck with me too. Like how he saw it as a lower thing that he wouldn't do, and he wouldn't want to disrespect his wife like that. That was something that kind of had that on me. How Alexei knew something was up, like because of how different she was acting. That was also something that was really cool. And also how Vronsky and Anna, like at first when they were together and their love was passionate, the problem was Alexei. Like they just saw him as like, oh, if only he wasn't there, we would be happy. But like how they were never really fully happy. Like maybe Italy was the only time they were like really truly like able to like be in that love. But how it was very short-lived, and like there always had to be something wrong. It's like kind of like something that grows out of bad place, like stays in a bad place, you know. And the extreme back and forth that Anna started going through, like that was it was a crazy part of the book, but it was so well written of how she was just going back and forth with like feeling ashamed what she was doing with Vronsky, then feeling jealousy, then to hating him, then to loving him. That whole dialogue back and forth was freaking amazing. Like I that was the part of the book, like everything that I said like was the big highlights. But I think the very important and the great part of the book was the dialogue internally and externally with everybody. Like there was a parts of the book that were really, I wouldn't say boring, but they were kind of long, and like it was like kind of like the passage of time was told, like the way he used the words. And I know there was a lot of stuff, my vocabulary isn't that deep, and I know parts of the book that I kind of didn't fully grasp. So this is definitely a book, even though it was long, that I'm gonna read again, because it's like it was really a great book. And then also like just Levin's whole thing, like that's what I really like about Levin, because there wasn't a lot of action when it came to Levin. There was a lot of internal stuff that happened. Levin and Kitty's love like were parts of the book where you felt good. Anna and Vronsky's part of the book, it was so crazy. Like I think it was like, obviously we like messy shit as humans, and we like all the drama, and so that was like the drama book that just came like, what the fuck is going on? But the beautiful part of the book, the beautifulness of the relationships was between Kitty and Levin. I know this is a long ass video. I tried, like, as I was telling the story, I was like, damn, this shit's getting long. But guys, I really love this book. The shit was awesome. I'm definitely going to read it again. One of my favorite books that I've ever read. Tell me what you took away from it. Was I wrong on some of the things? Was it pretty accurate? What please tell me what you thought about the book, because I mean, outside of the videos on the YouTube, I don't know anybody else that has liked this book or that has read this book, and I'm really interested in wondering what you guys have to say. But that is my retelling of the book. I'm going to do this with a lot of other books. They're not going to be this long, because this book is one of the longest books I've ever read. So hopefully the next book is going to be shorter and the retelling will be less time and everything. But guys, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Let's get started on Albert Camus' The Stranger. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.